So you can go ahead and hit. All right, so welcome. My name is Cheryl. Many of you may have met me before at other library programs and when we were doing the Aging Mastery book discussions we did last spring. I'm really glad to have you here, and I'm super excited about this program. I've been working on developing it for a little while and really hoping that there's something in here for everybody. I am going to screen share to start, so I'm going to go ahead and get that going. And that should work. So now you should be able to see. Is it showing my slide?
Yep, it looks great.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so our program, I have coined the term intentional aging. The idea behind this is that we talk about topics related to aging with some intention on things that we can actively do to guide us through the inevitable process of getting older. And let me see if it'll, there we go. I'd like to begin with a land acknowledgement. The North Olympic Library System acknowledges that the lands on which we live and gather are the appropriated homelands of Indigenous peoples. We want to express our deepest respect to those peoples past and present, including the Hoh Tribe, Jamestown S'Klallam Tribe, Lower Elwha Kollam Tribe, Makah Indian Tribe, Quileute Tribe, Quinault Indian Nation, Fort Gamble S'Klallam Tribe, and the Skokomish Tribe for their care of these lands throughout the generations. Let us learn more about the histories, cultures, and traditions of Indigenous peoples. Let us strengthen relationships with sovereign tribal nations to provide an inclusive space, fostering innovation and collaboration at the library. If you'd like to learn more about why the library has been offering NOLS land acknowledgements before our programs, there is information on the library's website. So the purpose of this program is to provide a safe and inclusive space for adults to explore and discuss topics centered around aging. What I'd like to begin with first is a little bit of a program overview, and I don't know if you can still see me. Many of you were able to participate in the Aging Mastery playbook discussions we did last spring, and this program is not a repeat of that, but I am building off of their themes for our topics, presenters, and book discussions going forward. And in addition to that, we're going to be including different presenters, some activities, book discussions, and of course, conversations. So the themes include gratitude and mindfulness, health and well-being, finances and future planning, connections and community, creativity and learning, and legacy and purpose. As a small aside, you don't have to write all this down. I will send you this PowerPoint slideshow. So anything you see on here that you want to have access to, you will get in an email, approximately give me about a week after for those. So presenters, you'll see on this screen, this is Jennifer. She will be presenting in October. She is a librarian with NOLS, a youth services librarian, but she also happens to be a very experienced certified yoga instructor and is very passionate about mindfulness and applying that to your life. So presenters will vary, and they're selected for their knowledge and expertise on the discussion topic that we're exploring. We'll have book discussions. Our first one coming up in November is This Chair Rocks, A Manifesto Against Ageism by Ashton Applewhite. And we'll be doing these discussions about every 3 months. The library will be creating some book kits. My first kit has about 15 copies. So what we're asking for is that if you sign out a copy, if you've done our library book groups before, these aren't checked out like you normally do on your card. It's on the honor system and you just provide your name and phone number. We're asking if you do have one of those copies that you try to keep your checkout to about 2 weeks to allow for other individuals to get access as well. But we do also have a few additional physical copies, and I believe there is an audiobook on the Washington Overdrive through Libby, the Libby app platform as well. And that discussion won't happen till the 3rd week of November, so you've got a lot of time for that. And the first book I expect to be available here within the next few weeks. They're on order. So the other component of this program is we're going to do some activities, and some of the activities will be standalone and really built around the monthly themes. We'll also utilize breakout rooms to provide opportunities for more in-depth discussions. I am recording the presentations as I mentioned, but I'm attempting to avoid recording interactive discussions to protect everybody's privacy. And also reminder again that I'm only sharing that with the group participants. It's not going out publicly anywhere. And also just an opportunity to share. One of the things that came out of the Aging Mastery Program is a lot of you know about some fabulous resources and ideas in our community, whether it's a website or another service. And I want to be able to provide at least a few minutes at every session for folks to share that as well. And the breakout rooms are another great space for that. We will have some recurring activities that you'll see happen every month. Those are going to include an icebreaker activity called Rosebud and Thorn, and I'll explain that in a moment. I'll also provide some suggested supplemental reading, writing, and other activities, maybe a video that you can do between monthly discussions. I'm also going to kind of provide a writing prompt every month, and with that writing prompt or kind of assignment, I want to provide an opportunity at the next month's meeting to share maybe what you got from that particular writing prompt and an opportunity for conversations. I will also be providing email follow-ups with the video link, any handouts or resources that were mentioned in the live program. And I just ask that you give me about a week to get those out. So I anticipate having this week's out by next Tuesday. Let's see. So are there any questions yet that have popped up in the chat?
Nope, nothing so far.
Okay.
I have a question.
Yes.
I have a question in regards to the book.
Yes.
Am I able to let you know that I need a book and then I can go just pick it up, or how does that work? Do I have to go into my library and let them know I'm part of this group and I need this book?
In the past at each branch, we have done like our book group discussion. The kits go to assigned branches. I think I am going to do a Google form where I will send that out when the books are ready. I'll send a Google form out. You can reply, say you need a copy in which branch, and then I'll send it to your branch for pickup. So that's my intention with those. And then again, just kind of asking for that 2-week guideline. So if you're on the wait list for it, we get you copies as soon as possible. Future, okay. I'm hoping for 6 to 8 weeks of that checkout window. So we have plenty of time for everybody to get a chance to read them. So, and I'm also trying to avoid really thick books to allow for that faster turnaround as well. So, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. So if you're not experienced with breakout rooms, that's the next thing that I wanted to mention. So breakout rooms are a function of Zoom where our moderators can push you into a small group setting. I encourage you to have your camera off and turn your mic on and engage in conversation in those spaces. We'll use them for a wide variety of purposes. Oftentimes it's a chance to maybe go a little deeper into a topic and give everybody a chance to speak, when if we have 20 to 30 people in here, it can be difficult to do it in the larger group setting. The basic how-to, you really don't have to do much of anything with that. You will get a prompt when Liz starts the breakout room, and you just hit accept to go into the room. And while in there, the one consideration, it's kind of like what I mentioned with videos, is if somebody is sharing something, just making sure before you reshare that to anybody else, whether it's the larger group, that it's okay with that individual. Because I want this to be a space where maybe you're talking about something that's a little more deeply personal or sensitive. And I want this to be a space where you can talk about those things and know that it'll stay there if that's what you need. So just keep that in mind. And also know that if you shared something like that, that you maybe let the folks that you're talking with, if you don't want that to go any further than that conversation. The assumption is that it won't unless you say yes. So, and then what I'd like to lead into now is our first icebreaker activity. And I think I'm going to stop share for just a second. So with this first icebreaker activity, we're going to push everybody into there into a breakout room. And while you're in there, I would like you to work as a group. There should be 3 or 4 of you, and your goal is to find 3 things that you all have in common. It can be simple things like maybe your whole entire group is in their 60s. Maybe all of you moved to Washington and Port Angeles from out of state. Maybe you all have the same kind of pets. But the goal here is just a chance to chat a little bit, get to know each other. When you go in there, I would encourage you to start first by, saying who you are and maybe one thing that brought you to sign up for this program. And once we move you to the breakout rooms, we will have Liz put these prompts in a message that goes out to the breakout rooms. So do watch for that. So poem I wanted to share. I had a poem I was going to share on my purpose screen and I forgot. I did hear a little nature theme in a few of the things we talked about. This great book, it's called How to Be More Tree, and it's Essential Life Lessons for Perennial Happiness. This is in the library's collection. It's just a fun book. It talks about different types of trees and kind of some of the aspects or attributes of that tree. So this first one is called Love the Age You Are, and it's the cottonwood. And it says, we have a tendency to focus on the negatives of aging and overlook the little perks that come with maturity and experience. You won't be surprised to know that trees don't make this mistake. In fact, they strive to be older and enjoy it when they get there. The cottonwood is the fastest growing tree in North America. Young trees are ambitious and competitive, shooting up to 6 feet in 1 year in their quest to get ahead. This slows as they get older, but this isn't a sign of them giving up. It's just them bulking up, sort of like middle-aged bodybuilders, making them the very best at taking carbon out of the atmosphere. So you can race to get your holds on this one. I'll share a few more from it before we're done today. So next up, I'm going to turn my screen share back on and make sure I haven't skipped anything in my notes. PowerPoint. So at this time, I would like to talk about our specific topic for this month, which is gratitude. And just some things to think about. What is gratitude? And gratitude is an affirmation of goodness. It's something that encourages us to acknowledge some goodness in our life. And it's good to kind of figure out where it comes from. And why does it matter? Well, there are definitely some myths surrounding gratitude. A lot of times people seem to think that being overly grateful can undercut ambition. And the truth is, studies have actually found that people are more successful at reaching their goals when they consciously practice gratitude. It also can be very motivating. So if you express gratitude for something, there's a lot of really great feelings that come back with that. And that in turn can kind of complete that cycle of really motivating us to look forward and keep working harder at achieving our goals. I also wanted to share that all of the resources that I mentioned, I have a book list at the end of this as well, and an opportunity for you guys to share any resources you might have. Let's see, next slide. So next we are going to, it's going to be another breakout room, and this is something that I would like to try every month. It is an activity called Rose, Bud, and Thorn, which is apropos with our master gardeners in the mix too. But each month, we'll take the time to share a rose, a bud, and a thorn in a breakout room of groups of 3 to 4, like we did already, with a chance to share a few highlights with the larger group. So these can be very small, simple things. They don't have to be deep, but they also can be things that are maybe more challenging or more personally connected issues for you that you want to share with your group. Please remember, as I mentioned before, to respect privacy and only share what is discussed with your breakout group or the larger discussion when permission is given by the person sharing. We definitely want everyone to feel safe, seen, and heard. So the rose, bud, thorn process is roses are maybe positive things or wins in your life that you've recently experienced, or maybe it's a bigger long-term piece. Buds are maybe new ideas or something that you're excited to explore. And thorns can be the obstacles or problems that you face, or maybe you're getting in the way of the bud that you're trying to, and I'm excited to engage with. So what I'd like to do right now is give everybody about 2 or 3 minutes to maybe jot a few thoughts down on what you might want to share with your breakout group. And then after that 2 to 3 minute window, Liz will push you back into the breakout rooms for about 5 minutes again, to share that. And when you return from that, we'll do a similar thing where you can share with the larger group if you wish to, whether it's your own or someone else's that you've been given permission to share. So Liz, I'd say like 11:32, we can. And I'm going to hit stop. Oh, actually, I'll leave that up for you guys. All right, about a minute more, and then I'll have Liz start those breakout rooms. Liz, if you want to. Perfect.
Could you share the name of that book one more time?
Sure. It's called How to Be More Tree.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So this next one is, oh, I lost my paper slip. There it is. Life is all about the small wonders. Ever noticed how a simple act of kindness can feel like the sun coming out in your day? Small joys and the sharing of them is the secret to a happier life. Take the acai palm. It thrives deep in the heart of the complex ecosystem of the Amazon rainforest and makes it its mission to share the love. It attracts over 200 different types of insects with its lovely pollen and its beautiful and super nutritious deep purple berries. Provide dinner for lots of birds, reptiles, and other living things in search of goodness. And that was the acai palm. And the art in this is beautiful too. I should be sharing those. All of the illustrations by Annie Davidson. Okay. So next, I would like to screen share one more time. Right. Okay, skipped back. There we go. So next I wanted to just spend a few minutes talking about the science behind gratitude and why be grateful. I have a couple of articles and a few books that I'll reference through this next section that I've also included links in the slides. When I send you the PowerPoint, you can follow links directly there, as well as the list of books at the end. So a lot of this information is from an article called Neuroscience Reveals Gratitude Literally Rewires Your Brain to Be Happier. So if you have some thoughts on other reasons to be grateful, feel free to drop those in the chat as well. Oh, I need to hit share, don't I? I haven't done that yet. There we go. That makes more sense. All right, so the science behind gratitude, why be grateful? So this is showing some of the benefits of gratitude, things like improvements in your physical health, better sleep, improving your psychological health, an increase in empathy, reduces aggression, provides more social connection, enhances your self-esteem, and it improves your mental strength. If you have any other thoughts on ways that you think gratitude benefits you in your life, please feel free to drop those in the chat to share with the group. And then on my next slide, actually, so these are some suggested activities from an article called Neuroscience Reveals. Gratitude literally rewires your brain to be happier. And so I have a couple excerpts from that I wanted to share. So when you say thank you, do you really mean it, or is it just politeness in which you give just a little bit of attention? So neuroscientists have done some research and found that if you really feel it when you say it, you'll actually be happier and healthier. And the regular practice of expressing gratitude is not a new age fad. It's a facet of the human condition that reaps true benefits to those who mean it. This article that I have, and I do link that in the slides, has a wealth of different resources in there, including, journals, articles, as well as, more like, a daily health post article, things like that. But there are also some very excellent resources supporting the information provided in here. They highlight a study done by a Dr. Robert Emmons, and his name pops up repeatedly in a lot of the readings and research I've done on gratitude and aging and the benefits of gratitude. And subjects in this study were asked to keep a daily journal, and they were asked to track things they were grateful for, 1/3 of them. The other third were asked to write down daily irritations or events that had displeased them. And the last group was asked to write down daily situation and events with no emphasis on whether it was positive or negative. So the gratitude group, not surprisingly to me, reported feeling a lot more optimistic and positive about their lives than the other groups did. That particular group also tended to be more physically active and reported fewer visits to their doctor than those who only wrote about their negative experiences. So some of the benefits, there's a lot of research into the physical effects of gratitude that provides even more tangible results. And by focusing on the positive and feeling grateful, you're also going to improve your sleep and reduce feelings of anxiety. Gratitude also has benefits to the brain. This is also based on another study providing information that brain activity was measured using MRI as subjects were induced to feel grateful or gratitude by receiving gifts. The areas of the brain showed increased activity were, these are all very sciencey ones, anterior cingulate cortex and medial prefrontal cortex. And the point to that is those are associated with moral and social cognition. So those are the areas of the brain that were kind of turned on by viewing what happens in our brain when we receive things. So it also, and reward, empathy, and value judgment is also triggered in that part of the brain. So this led them to conclude that emotion of gratitude supports a positive and supportive attitude towards others and a feeling of relief from stressors. Gratitude also activates your hypothalamus with some downstream effects with metabolism, stress, and other various behaviors. So the positive influence of gratitude on mental health continues past a particular event and when the emotion is relived. So a simple gratitude writing intervention has been associated with significantly greater and lasting neural sensitivity to gratitude. Subjects who participated in gratitude letter writing showed both behavioral increases in gratitude and significantly greater neural modulation by gratitude in the medial prefrontal cortex. And there is a Science Direct journal article that information comes from. So if you dig the science piece of it and want to know a little bit more, you'll be able to follow that through the article link there. So we can perceive and experience gratitude and its many characteristics in a very broad spectrum. Openness and willingness to experience gratitude affects not only the individual, but her or his interpersonal relationships. A common strain in relationships is caused by repeated negative feedback by one or both partners without offsetting gratitude. I've always heard that expression, for every negative, you need to hear 3 positives. I think that's a lot kind of what they're alluding to there. Whether that still sticks in the science, I don't know, but it does make a lot of sense. If all you hear is what's wrong and you don't ever hear what's right or what's good, it really takes its toll on you in the long term. So this article has these suggested activities, and I'm going to share some other gratitude activities towards the end of our time today. Keeping a daily journal of things you are grateful for. You can just keep a very basic list of 3. The best time for writing in your journal is often in the morning as your day begins, or at night before you go to sleep. Also, making a point to tell people in your life what you appreciated about them on a daily basis. So, and then also that's very important in this is making sure you're grateful to yourself. So take the time to look in the mirror and give yourself a moment to think about a quality you like about yourself or something you have recently accomplished. Before I move to the next session, because we love these breakout rooms, I would like to give you guys a couple minutes to maybe do that self-reflection. And it's a very hard thing to say something nice about ourselves sometimes, but you're in a group of people that maybe you don't know very well. And this, I'd like to, if you're comfortable, maybe share something that you like about something you recently accomplished. So take about a minute, and then I'll have Liz push you in. This one will be, I'll probably still stick to about 5 minutes. So just make sure everybody in your group has a chance to share. And then following this, we'll be talking about the benefits of gratitude and aging. So Liz, if you want to go ahead and pause the recording. So the Aging Mastery Playbook pretty intentionally put gratitude and mindfulness first, if you didn't participate in that previous discussion, because this is a common thread throughout everything we will talk about. We'll talk about some heavier topics down the road, some things that are maybe a little more difficult to navigate, but remembering and keeping this mindfulness and gratitude piece in place throughout that, and really giving yourself grace as you navigate getting older, aging, and participating in this discussion. So there's a reason why we lead with it, and just kind of keeping that in mind as you go forward. So I have a couple more slides that I'd like to share with you. The next one, I'm going to remember to actually hit share here. PowerPoint, share. Perfect. Okay. So next up is just highlighting a couple things about gratitude and aging. And this information that I pulled here is from the article you see at the bottom, is a Dr. Laura Carstensen, and it's actually the contributing writer is this Alex, I'm going to probably massacre this name, Zavorankov. It's probably not stated correctly. My apologies. So basically, it's an interview that he did with her, and these are kind of some of the main takeaways that came out of this article. It was fabulous. Both of these individuals are doing work in the psychology of aging and its impact on us. So there's a field that is really kind of unnoticed and untouched, and that is this field of the psychology of aging. So we do age on a psychological level. We also age on a physiological level. And, thousands of years of evolution kind of have made sure that we pass the years, when we pass the years of our peak performance and start losing things on all fronts, we adjust, accept the inevitable, and continue living our lives until the end. Well, the cool thing about this part of research is something called the socio-emotional selectivity theory. And Alex's takeaway from this interview was that in 2 very simple sentences, our longevity horizons impact our behavior. So the longer you expect to live, the younger you are going to behave and vice versa, which is a very interesting way of looking at that. And as our life expectancies have extended, those people that are going to live more actively, more, have maybe more success in their older years and feeling like they kind of still have somewhat together, are going to be able to think in terms of the expectation that they're going to live longer, and that will actually have an impact. So, how to stay psychologically and emotionally younger, regardless of your physiological and environmental changes, kind of, the question here. So most of the actionable literature on the subject is either authored or co-authored by this Dr. Carstensen. And so that's what prompted this article. The core postulate of this theory is that time horizons have powerful influences on people's goals and motivations. So prior to this work, the idea that time horizons could account for age differences was not really something people thought about very much. So what they've been able to show is that we can shift the preferences of younger people to look like those of older people when they perceive their time horizons as relatively short. And we can generate preferences in older people to resemble those of younger people when you expand our theoretical time horizons. So it's kind of a funny thing to wrap our brains around. But basically, it just really fundamentally suggests that the amount of time that you perceive as having left may be as important, and in some cases more important, than the number of years since you were born. So my takeaway from that is to kind of share that piece with you. It may be worth researching and reading this article and getting a little bit more of the takeaway from that. I think it's kind of still pretty early as far as like, how do we do this? How do we implement this in our life? But some of this can be mindset, and gratitude can play a key role if you're, living your life with gratitude and appreciative of what you have and where you're going, and are setting goals and working towards those may all help with your longevity horizon. That's my own personal take. That is not a scientifically proven element to that, but it was something that I really wanted to kind of share and highlight and point out. And again, this green line down there will be a live link to that when I send you the slideshow on that one. So the last piece I would like to highlight, and this is a book. It's called The Thank You Project. I have it on order. It's not in the catalog yet. So when I send the link, I'll have it in there. I have my own copy of it here. And this book was written by Nancy Davis Coe, and she is a journalist. I'm trying to see if there's a good little piece. She's a freelance writer whose work has appeared in the Washington Post, San Francisco Chronicle, Us Magazine, Rumpus, and The Toast. She covers the years between being hip and breaking one on her award-winning Midlife Mixtape blog and the companion Midlife Mixtape podcast. And what this is Nancy, a few years ago now, was turning 50. And she decided to start a thank you letter project where she was writing letters to the people that had significant meaning in her life. And she leads with the story about the letter that she wrote to her dad. And unfortunately, within a year, so she opens with, she wrote this letter to her father, and she's in his office, and he had framed it and hung it on his wall in his office, that he appreciated it so much because she took the time to talk about the impact that he had in her life and how much he meant to her. And unfortunately, she lost her dad to cancer within a year of having sent that letter. And so she was in his office to write his eulogy. But she goes on to talk about, some of the different letters that she has written, talking about who to, and she really guides you through, if this is something that you want to do for yourself in your life, this is a great kind of project-based book. She has you think about lining up your letters, giving yourself an outline, doing an introductory paragraph, maybe talking about how you met, your body paragraph, and a closing. And so she gives you like a guide, and it's fabulous. She said the response, I'm going to share from the beginning here some of her broad insights. Not the content of the letters per se. I will leave that to the recipients to judge, but the mere act of writing them. Though I had sent the letters with no expectation of responses, I had heard back from many of the people to whom I had written, who were touched that in this era of texting and emojis, I had taken the trouble to fill a full printed page with my thoughts about what they meant, why they meant so much to me. I never set about to make myself feel better by writing these letters, but it happened in doses large and small, over and over throughout that year. And thank goodness it did, because starting with Dad's death, my Golden Jubilee year did not turn out to be quite the party I had expected. She also mentions, it turns out that the restorative power of deliberate gratitude, the delight that comes from knowing you will make someone's day when they read your words, the recognition that you, yes, you, are supported and loved as you make your way through the challenges of the world, is a heady tonic. So that was one of the things that really grabbed me about this. And as we're talking about gratitude, there are ways, big and small, to incorporate gratitude into your life. It doesn't have to be as big of a project as thank you letters. It can start with smaller things. And I'm going to pop to this one. And so here I wanted to provide some activity ideas and suggestions. And our takeaway for next time is some months I'll provide like a writing prompt. This month, I would just like to task you with choosing something from this list or of your own intention related to gratitude, whether it's writing a thank you letter, maybe you decide you want to do a gratitude journal. And there is a list of prompts here that Jennifer Lebec, who will be presenting next month, who will be doing our mindfulness session, has provided. This is an embedded PDF, so it may not show up on your screen when I follow the link, but there is an embedded PDF with many, many prompts, from everything from write down one good thing that happened to you today, what is someone or something that makes you feel safe, list 10 activities that bring you joy. She has like a list of maybe 20 suggestions. So if you're looking for prompts, those will be included in here. I also, there is an online group called Thanks For, and it was listed in the Aging Mastery Playbook. I am going to get a group going, and I will send out the link. You are under no obligation to participate in the online journal, but if you're interested, that will be a platform that us as a group can share together. It probably won't see anything from me on that until just before the next session. The other one is think about writing a thank you letter to yourself. So maybe you do like the idea of writing those letters. Don't forget to include thanking yourself for all the work that you put in on making your life, coming and participating in this group. Maybe it's, you get out every week with intention to socialize or volunteer or something that you really want to, and be grateful that you're here and you are putting effort into making your daily life something that you enjoy. This next one is a list of a few websites, activities, and podcasts. This 13 most popular gratitude exercises and activities. Let's see if I can get it to open, and I'll share that with you guys in just a moment. And then the other website that keeps coming up is The Greater Good, The Science of a Meaningful Life. And that, again, that doctor I mentioned earlier, he, I believe, is connected to this Greater Good. It's at something through Berkeley. And so if you follow those links, that will also take you there. I'm just trying to get my thing to link out. It won't. So some of the books that I mentioned today that I want to share, there's one called The Gratitude Diaries. There's a couple of these, I believe, in the collection by Janice Kaplan, How a Year Looking on the Bright Side Can Transform Your Life. And this one also has some intentional activities you can do with that. I mentioned the Thank You Project. There's also one called the Gratitude Project, and they are not the same authors. This one is connected with the Greater Good Center, the Gratitude Project. And same thing, the Gratitude Project and Thank You Project are on order, but they will show up in the catalog shortly. The How to Be More Tree is listed on there. The other thing, if you're not aware of it, we've been circulating some community journals. And this was a brainchild of Leslie, who works in Port Angeles. And these come in these little zipper bags. And there is a series of them. There's a little handout. And this one in particular is actually a gratitude journal. So what you can do is if you search in the library's collection for the gratitude journal, you can request this and check it out. And this is an opportunity for members of the community to write and share in these journals. There are a whole variety of different themes with these. So feel free to check them all out. But this one, they'll circulate until they're full, and then they'll be added to the archive. So if you're interested, you can request that. It's called Clallam County Writes. You can see that. So the Clallam County Writes will bring up all of the different journals that you can request and put your own contributions into. And I will bring that back to the library tomorrow to be checked in. Let's see. Also on my list, I have a wonderful book that just, to me, is kind of about gratitude and thankfulness. It's a book called Dinner with Edward. It's been out for a few years, but if you haven't read this, I strongly suggest and encourage it. It's the author, Isabel Vincent, says, when Isabel meets Edward, this is a true story, both read at crossroads. He wants to follow his late wife to the grave, and she is ready to give up on love. Thinking she is merely helping Edward's daughter, who lives far away, and has asked her to check in on her nonagenarian dad in New York. He's in his 90s. Isabel has no idea that the man in the kitchen baking the sublime roast chicken and light as air apricot souffle will end up changing her life. It's just a really wonderful little memoir that talks about a relationship between a woman in her, I think she's in her 60s, and a gentleman in his 90s, and the friendship that they build off of that. So I strongly recommend that. Let's see, on my list. The other thing is, especially Hoopla, if you use Hoopla at all, go in there. Hoopla, we don't curate that collection, meaning we don't pick the titles that are in there, but I found that there's a whole slew of different little books on gratitude and happiness in there that are automatic checkouts. You don't have to wait for holds on those. They're all audio books, so that's a great resource. The Anytime Library also has other books and resources there, and of course the library's catalog. And then I listed those gratitude journal prompts. At this point, I'm going to kind of wrap up this conversation, and then I have a few other resources to share and to talk about next month. Does anybody have any questions, comments, anything else they'd like to add to the conversation right now? So I know I was pretty talk heavy this month. I will be opening up and kind of creating more dialogue and conversational opportunities for everybody. Won't be as heavy as this one. I wanted to really make sure I gave you a good overview of what to expect. And feel free, we still have a few more minutes if you have something else that I thought pops up to jump in. I can also let you know that for next month, there will be a little bit of movement. It won't be super, super intense or anything. But just making sure you're wearing something comfortable and maybe have a little space nearby if Jennifer has us standing up and doing some movement. I know there'll be breathing exercise elements to this as well. If you haven't met Jennifer before, she's fabulous, and it should be a really great session. And I will email once the books, this chair box books are out. And then the final session for fall is going to be on kind of telling your story. And I'm going to be providing this book. This is My Life, a Guided Journal. And these will be yours to keep once I'll get them ordered. And I'll do the same thing when they're ready. I'll send out a Google form and you can tell me which branch to send them to. And the neat thing about this is it gives you an opportunity to kind of write down things that might be important for you to remember. And then what you decide to do with the information you hear, of course, is up to you. We'll talk about in December different ways that you could maybe record your story, share your story, and ways to think about that. So this will be December. Let's see. On there.
Yeah. Are we ready to stop the recording?
Yes, you can go ahead and hit stop recording. And there is a link. Oh, you gonna turn it back on. So that resource is on this Get Set Up free virtual classes, a partnership with Washington State Department of Social and Health Resources. You follow that link and you put in the coupon code Washington. All they asked for was your name and an email, if I remember correctly. It was not very much. You don't have to
Right.
provide much extra, and then you get access to their resources. It's great. The other one I wanted to point out, it runs through the end of October. There is a senior farmers market nutrition program. And I imagine if they're still up and running, they'll start it again in next June. But if you reach out, the phone number is on here. You basically get $40 in vouchers for purchase of fresh fruits and vegetables at eligible Washington State Farmers Market and farm stands. And I was going to say, it is an income-based, I took a picture of it. So let me pull that up here, what it said. If it's a single person household income less than $19.86 a month and 2 people less than $26.86 a month, and then above that, if there's a larger household, then they add for each one. So if you fit into that criteria, feel free to call to get set up with that service. My goal is to continue to share resources like this with the community. If you have library cards at any other libraries in the state, and Timberland comes to mind, King County, a lot of them will do reciprocal cards. I noticed that a lot of them are doing something called Silver Kite, and I'm going to look into it, whether it's a possibility for the library. A lot of times these subscription services, bigger libraries can do it, but a lot of those libraries will give you a library card if you show them your one from Knowles and your Washington State ID or driver's license. And then you can access their online resources. And that one is like arts, as I understand it. I haven't had too much time to explore it. But keep that in mind, especially if you travel and you see another library, visit, say, hey, do you give a reciprocal card? You can really expand the resources that become available to you through that process as well. So let me stop sharing. I managed to make it through and not run over.